Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And as you can see from the title, I'm just going to be decorating this cake and turn it into a Hennessy cake. So I've already trimmed my edges and got some of the brown crust around the edges. And I've already put a thin layer of frosting in between the cakes, popped it in the freezer for about an hour just to get cold. And I'm just going to start off by placing a crumb coat or a thin layer of frosting all over the cake. It doesn't have to be perfect. As you're going to see, it's going to get messy, but that's okay because I'm going to clean it up. I ain't a professional. So yeah. That I know my cake looks a little crooked from the angle, but it really is because of how I have the camera propped up on the tripod. So it looks a little crooked, it looks slanted from the angle, but truthfully it's not slanted, it just looks that way. So yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best to try to get this cake nice and smooth. I highly recommend a bench scraper for your cake, especially if you have a large or a tall one. It's gonna help make your life so much easier. So I'm gonna try to get this as smooth as possible, and then I'll end up popping it in the freezer for like an hour just to let that first coat harden, and then I'll go back and frost it and kind of hide any of the imperfections that you can see. And also, I'm not really worried about how messy the cake board is getting because before it goes in the freezer, I'm gonna take a wet paper towel and clean it off. I just recommend cleaning it while it's still wet or the frosting is still moist, so that way it doesn't harden, and then you're really gonna have to scrape it off after it's been in the freezer. So FYI. Okay, so now that my cake has been chilled for at least an hour in the freezer or the refrigerator, I'm gonna go ahead and add my second coat of the vanilla buttercream. And this, I'm just gonna try to hide any of the imperfections, any of the holes, the crevices, whatever you wanna call it. I just try to make sure that the whole cake has an even amount of frosting all the way around. That's just how I find that it makes your cake look as smooth as possible. Okay, so now I'm just adding some little candy pearls to the bottom of the cake, and I'm just using that to kind of add as a border, also to hide any of the imperfections that you can see. So yeah, the easiest way I found that is if you just put them on the cake board and lightly push them into the cake, and then again, this would end up going into the freezer or the refrigerator for about an hour before we do any more of the decorating. Okay, so now I'm just going to cover the tips of the little Hennessy bottles with plastic wrap, just so it's not directly going into the cake, all them germs, and you don't know where these bottles been. So the easiest way that I found to do this is to not apply too much, but just enough to cover the tips of the bottles, and then to rub your hand really fast around it just to warm that plastic up. And they're gonna probably come undone just from sitting there until they go into the cake, but that's okay because once they're in there, the plastic's gonna like stay together. So yeah. So I like to play around with acting like I'm gonna put the bottles in, because you don't want to put holes in the cake and then not like where you put it. So I like to just kind of move the bottles around, kind of visualize where you want it before actually putting the bottles in. So I would just keep that in mind if you're not sure on where you want that to go, or if you have more than 3 bottles, just act like you're putting it in there before you actually do. Okay, and then I decided to skip putting the 3rd bottle in just because I was still kind of unsure on where I wanted to put it. So I decided to go ahead and do some frosted piping, I guess you could call it, just around the borders, just so I can try to get a better idea on what I want the cake to look like. And now I'm just taking some melted candy melts that I dyed with gel food coloring. It's so much easier if you have a squeeze bottle. In this case, I didn't have any more. So I ended up having to use a spoon trying to make little drips around the cake. But I'm gonna end up putting it in a Ziploc bag just because the spoon was not working for me. It's like the chocolate was not as like melted. It's so much easier if you're gonna do drips to add heavy cream to your chocolate or your candy melts. I'm gonna go ahead and put in the last Hennessy bottle in the cake. The plastic wrap was kind of long, so I ended up having to re-wrap that, which you'll see in the video. And I do have some chocolate covered strawberries that I dipped. I put them in the freezer for just about 10-15 minutes just to get the chocolate cold. And I'm just gonna put that on the cake to make it look a little cute and girly. And now I'm just adding some hard little rock candies that I had. These are clear, so they almost give it like a ice crystal diamond looking effect. So I just popped some of those chunks onto the cake, but really you don't even have to add candy or strawberries. You can decorate the cake however you want, whatever alcohol floats your boat. This is just something that a client asked for. And now I'm just gonna take some of that buttercream and pipe a circle in the center. I actually was gonna write happy birthday in the middle, but the frosting, the purple frosting was not working. So I'm gonna hide that by putting a little small circle of frosting in the center. And then I'm just gonna put some gold sprinkles, the same ones that are on the strawberries, just to tie the whole cake together. And since I had some leftover buttercream, I'm gonna go ahead and make the tips a little bit larger just to kind of fill in the gaps and just make them some nice little pipe-in tips at the top. So yeah. Alrighty, love bugs. That is my cute little Hennessy cake. I think it turned out really cute. This was the first alcohol cake that I got to make. So if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching.